I don't know if I can bring myself to do this, but I feel I have to for the sake of making good content for you guys. And Vivo, please forgive me if this doesn't go according to plan. Okay, on three. 1, 2, 3. So many people stick to what they know when it comes to smartphones, and that's okay. But those same people are inadvertently missing out on some of the greatest smartphone camera systems ever made, which means they might not be seeing the big picture. And I mean that metaphorically and realistically. And that is the theme for this video. This is the Vivo X90 Pro, a dark horse in the smartphone camera race. And when I show you the photos side by side versus the Pixel 7 Pro and the iPhone 14 Pro Max, try not to discriminate and just assess them at their face value. And if you do that, you will truly see the value of the X90 Pro, and hopefully you will truly see the value of subscribing to this channel. But first, let's unbox this brand new Vivo X90 Pro Global Edition and run through the unique aesthetics and attributes, and I'll tell you all of the key things that you probably want to know. And then we will compare this camera system to what many consider to be two of the very best right now. So you'll notice straight away it's got this really nice vegan leather back. They call this color the legendary black. This was inspired by materials often used on pro DSLR cameras like my Sony A7s that I use in this setup. The power button and the volume rocker are located on the right hand side of the device. It does have dual speakers, and on the top here it also has an IR blaster and some fine print that says professional photography. It does have a dual SIM card tray, but it's not a hybrid, so no expandable memory here. But there is some good news about the memory, and we'll come back to that in a moment. The screen glass is curved, and there is a snappy optical fingerprint reader behind the scenes in the display, and it does support 2D face unlock as well, if you're wondering. And take a look at the back design of this phone. See that reflective line in the middle that divides the back? It says extreme imagination on it, and whoever came up with the explanation for the camera module design definitely has that, because apparently the dividing line represents the horizon, the skyline, and the camera module represents the sun rising over it. And I'm not making this up, this comes straight out of Vivo's reviewer's guide. And apparently the entire structure on the back of the device was designed using the golden ratio. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's a well-known camera grid layout style used for composing shots in professional photography. And you can see professional photography is really what Vivo are leaning into here with the X90 Pro. But the question is it going to be better than the Pixel 7 and the iPhone? We will see. Now, I don't consider myself a pro photographer, but anybody who looks at this device can see that the camera module here looks quite similar to the lens on a DSLR camera. And this module is unapologetically large, and it certainly does rise above the rest when it comes to the thickness of the glass. And if Vivo had added tread around the lens module itself, it probably could have had a lens cap or maybe even extra lenses that could kind of twist on. Maybe we'll see that in the next one. And here is the camera sensor specs. The primary camera is the Sony 1-inch IMX989. It's a 50 megapixel sensor with f1.75 aperture. And I'm not exaggerating when I say the optical image stabilization on this phone is world beating. It might actually be the best apart from the Plus variant of this same phone. And then we have another 50 megapixel Sony sensor for portrait mode. This is also the telephoto lens. And then we have a 12 megapixel Sony sensor for the ultra wide. And then the fourth, what looks to be camera module here, is actually a laser autofocus element. And on the front side, we have a 32 megapixel in display, centrally placed punch hole camera. And next out of the box, Vivo have kindly supplied a transparent silicone case. Better to have one and not need it than to need one and not have it. And that goes the same for this. The 120 watt Vivo flash charging power brick and capable cable. Now, some of you will already know this, but some of you might not. If there is no charger in your box, make sure you get the right speed, and also make sure you get the right cable to provide the speed that you need, because not all USB-C cables are created equal. And I do have a best accessories for Android video coming out soon, so keep an eye out for that. And there's a really cool USB-C cable in that video. Which takes me nicely onto speed and power, which can of course be the solution to many things in life. And in this case, when it comes to the battery in the phone, it's a 4,870 milliamp hour cell, and the provided charger that comes with the X90 Pro can take it from 0 to 50% in around 8 minutes and 10 seconds. And lucky for you guys, I have run the battery into the ground so that we can actually test the charging speeds up to 50%, and at the same time we can monitor the temperature generated by that rapid charging with my new Predator Vision tool here, better known as Bill. So I need to plug this in under the desk. Yeah. As you can see, the phone is completely out of juice now. Here we go. Gonna do a little heat check here. Interestingly enough, the heat seems to be generating in the top left corner of the device. So I've just discovered that the fast charging isn't on by default. So I've just switched it on now, which means the results here are going to be quite inconclusive, but you get the idea. The charging is incredibly rapid. And another great thing about the charging options here with the Vivo X90 Pro is it actually supports 50-watt Qi wireless charging, which is insane. The Samsungs and the Apples and most of the well-known phones you think of as being the best typically charge at a maximum of 15 watts wirelessly. So 50 is pretty incredible. What's interesting right now, having just looked at the thermal imager, is the heat seems to be generating up here in the top right corner of the phone now. I'm assuming that's where the chipset is in the device. Going up to the 8 minute 10 seconds, we're at 33%. I think the 8 minute 10 second claim is probably from 1 to 50 because it took quite a while, a couple of minutes, to get to the point where it would even switch on. And also keep in mind, the fast charging option wasn't selected when I started the test, which is really annoying. So just past the 10-minute mark, the temperature is holding it around 38 degrees. Again, that's respectable. It's not getting too hot, even though it's charging incredibly fast. We're at 44% now. Okay, so it took me 13 minutes and 7 seconds to get to 50% here on the device with the 120 watts fast charger. Let's get a final read of the temperature. Just around 40.2 degrees just here where the battery module is. So of course, rapid charging is a fast way to deteriorate your battery's lifespan. So by default, out of the box, there is a more sensible balanced charging mode in place for everyday use that gets you from 0 or 1% to 100 in around 29 minutes. So there's really 3 key things that most people want from a smartphone. They want good battery life, they want a good display and good cameras. And I can tell you this phone has all 3 of those. But it really is the camera system and features within the software that is this phone's true superpower. And really it deserves its own video because there's so many features here that you just don't see on other phones. And before I show you how it stacks up against the champions from Apple and Google, you've got to take a quick look at the display and learn about some of the premium components that Vivo have opted for in this device. The display is a Full HD Plus 6.78 inch 1260 by 2800 AMOLED from Samsung Display with 300 Hz touch sampling rate and a 120 Hz refresh rate. And let's dial that in right now. So you can see by default it's on the smart switch, so it'll automatically switch between the refresh rates depending on what you're viewing, and we can lock it in at 120 Hz, which is what I'm gonna do. It's a little bit of a battery sacrifice in exchange for some extra speed. And regarding the color accuracy, the screen has a HDR10 Plus certification. It can display 100% of the DCI P3 color gamut. And if you have no idea what that means, just know this display has very, very good colors and it's very accurate when it comes to colors. And there's also some new tech in the screen here. It's not visible to the naked eye. Vivo calls it Q9. And what the Q9 is a luminescent material used in the display to reduce harmful blue light and reduce the display's power usage. So hopefully that balances out me locking in the 120 Hz. Anyway, let's run through a couple more standout features and then we'll dive into the all-seeing eye on this device. So when I looked at the spec sheet and saw that Vivo went with 12 GB of LP DDR5X RAM and 256 GB of UFS 4.0 on the base variant, I was very happy because these are the fastest and most amazingly smart and futuristic state-of-the-art components that any phone manufacturer can get their hands on right now. This means read and write speeds will be incredibly fast, resulting in shorter load times, quicker install times, faster data transfer if you're plugging this into a computer. It's just going to make this phone so quick. And on top of that, the X90 Pro has the most powerful MediaTek chip to date on board. The Dimensity 9200 4nm chipset. I heard the X3 Supercore can run a clock speed of 3.05 GHz. Again, if this means nothing to you, all you need to know is that that is top tier performance. And with great power and performance must come great responsibility for the phone's cooling system. And the X90 Pro is equipped with the most extensive vapor cooling system that Vivo has ever used on their Pro series. We're talking about 24 layers of heat dissipation here. But listen here, I don't want to bore you to death with too much geek speak. Maybe it would just make more sense if I show you. So what you're seeing right now is the Antutu Benchmark test. And once it finishes, we can see where it places on the leaderboard. And at the same time, let's see how it handles the heat. So at the midpoint in the test, the top left corner of the device, if you're looking at it from the front, is reaching 48 degrees, which is pretty hot. It will be interesting to see what temperature it reaches at the end and whether that heat dissipation layer can bring that number down. So by the end of the Antutu test, the temperature dropped back down to 42.8. That means the cooling system did kick in and it did disperse the heat. And you can kind of see how it's doing that here on this diagram. But what you probably want to know is how does this stack up against other devices? According to Antutu right now, the Vivo X90 Pro Plus is #1. And this phone with the MediaTek chip is #3. Now is the moment you've been waiting for, the Pixel 7 Pro versus the iPhone 14 Pro Max versus the X90 Pro Camera, which has been co-engineered with Zeiss Optics. And I'll explain the significance of this as we look at the photos. Now here's the first photo, and when I actually visited the Zeiss HQ in Munich, I actually got a look at their shooting range where they calibrate the camera lenses and all this stuff and test the coatings. And that's where I got the idea to get one of these, a lens calibration chart. So that's what you're looking at right now. And I'm still learning how to use it properly, but one of the nice things about having it here in the studio is that when I take photos of it, I can hold the phone up right next to the chart and see how it compares to what my eyes can see. And one of the things I noticed here, particularly about the Vivo X90 Pro, is how accurate the colors were in comparison to the other two. The iPhone and the Pixel were also very good, but the realistic colors on the Vivo X90 Pro really stood out to me. And I did notice less color fringing on the Vivo X90 as well. And this is really what Zeiss bring to the table. Here's another perfect example of how the perfectly calibrated hardware can be the difference. Both the iPhone and the Pixel have phenomenal camera software and image signal processing, but the Vivo's lenses and lens coatings have been optimized to reduce glares and reduce ghosting and chromatic aberrations so that the AI and ISP doesn't have to do as much work. And it's really evident in this shot too. Look at how it handles the red light whilst retaining great color accuracy and detail in the rest of the shot. But it's not just the hardware that makes the X90 Pro special, it's also the V2 chip that's inside. This is a dedicated chip created by Vivo that offloads a bunch of the image signal processing responsibilities from the main chip, which in this case is the MediaTek Dimensity. And it assists with enhancing photos from all of the lenses, not just the primary one. So this includes the ultra wide and the telephoto and even the macro photos. And it even does its best to make me look half decent in the selfie camera shots. And that's no easy task, but it does a good job in my opinion. The beauty mode was on by default, I did have to switch it off. And when it comes to HDR performance, it's solid here too. And let me know, which one do you think looks the best here in this HDR shot? And there's really so much to talk about when it comes to the video and photo capabilities of the X90 Pro. There's so many different modes like moon photography mode, astrophotography mode. There's crazy stabilization features. There's a bunch of different Zeiss portrait modes you can test out. It can lock on to several different faces and fine tune each one's skin tones. And there really is so much going on here on the Vivo X90 Pro camera system that it probably needs its own video. So let me know if you want to see that, or if you want to see a proper in-depth camera comparison. Leave that in the comments below. And if you guys want to check out the video that I made when I went to Carl Zeiss headquarters in Munich, that thumbnail is on the screen right now. And if you just subscribed, you're now one of the finest subscribers known to man. See you in the next one. Don't be late. And Vivo, please forgive me if this doesn't go according to plan. Okay, on three. 1, 2, 3. Oh God. No. Never again, I promise. Okay. Oh, it's all good. It's okay. Nothing to worry about. Move along now. Nothing to see here.